Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Guys awake? Come on. Gotta get better than that. Anyway, so I'm going to break this out basically in a couple. I heard a little bit of what Ken had to say, and I think Rob might have told you I'm traveling, but I don't have a lot of time to prepare. And I will tell you this, in the little bit of time I had to prepare, boy, so much emotions run through. There's just so much I want to say to you guys. So I'm going to try to condense it into the 20 or 25 minutes, and I might be a little bit all over the board, but there's just some things I'm pretty passionate about, and I think that are important for you to get through to you, that I feel are important for you guys to be successful. And, networking and things like that are going to be some of the things I'll talk about, but there's also some other things I'm going to spend some time on too. But, so I'm breaking it down into me and my family, a little bit about that, my background. How I got to RIT and the League of Knights and sort of my role and where that all played out. My career, which I think a lot of you guys really want to hear about. And then, the networking and life lessons and some of the things I just mentioned that I think are important. I heard Ken talk a lot about networking. Mine won't focus so much on things like that. But, so I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, and it's myself, my wife, and my two sons, Chad and Troy. Chad is a sophomore, Chad is a senior, Chad is a freshman at U of A, and my younger son, Troy, is a sophomore in high school. I got to RIT. I graduated from Liverpool High School. I really planned on, my life goal was to play college football. I tore my ACL when I was a senior, and one of the things I neglected to do when I was in high school was get good grades. I sort of carried that through college too, just to let you know. So, so I made a pass through Morrisville. When I was at Morrisville, they had an RIT day. I had no idea I was going to go to RIT, and so I ended up spending the day at RIT, and long story short, I ended up at RIT. I ended up on the floor that I think 11 of the original League of Knights were on. I think the only one that wasn't on that floor was Chris K. Chris K was right below us. Rob could probably authenticate that a little bit better than I could. My memory doesn't serve me all that well anymore. I'm pretty old. But I was a little bit older than, I was a little bit older than most of the guys that were there by a year, usually until I was a sophomore. So I was in a room, and myself, Tom Reen, and my roommate, Ed, who came over from Morrisville, we pledged PEP together. And, for Ed, it was a great experience, and for Tom and I, it just wasn't. Once we got in and realized real quickly that the guys that were in there weren't really the guys that we wanted to hang out with, and didn't believe a lot of the things that we thought were important in life, to make a long story short. So I'll tell you a little story about Tom and I that not a lot of people know, is that Tom and I decided together, hey, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to quit. And, so Tom went in the morning and quit, and I said I was going to do it after one of my classes in the afternoon. So I came back to the dorm. He'd already quit, and he was so nervous that I wasn't going to quit. And so I came back, of course, and this is my first really experience messing with Tom, which I've done, throughout my career at RIT, as Rob will attest to. And sort of when I'm even more so as an adult now, I started messing with too. But told him, I didn't quit, and I let him go for a good 5 or 6 hours, and he was just upside down on me, complaining, when are you going to quit, when you quit? So I'd already quit, and Tom and I just decided that that wasn't really for us. So there was a bunch of things going on at that time. There was another guy on our floor. His name was Ted. I think he was our RA, if I remember correctly, but he started a fraternity. And we sort of were trying to get in with them, and it didn't really work. Some of the original League of Knights were there, some weren't. And it really wasn't anything we wanted to get involved with after we had spent some time there, so we never really participated in that either. And then sort of the 12 of us sort of got together and said, hey, why don't we do our own thing based on what we saw these other guys doing. And, my son's a sophomore, my son's a freshman now, and so going back to the dorm, it really, I couldn't believe it, but it brought back so many memories for me, because I thought, holy crap. I said, this is where we were, and I just remember the meetings we had and the things that we did. And if you guys can't understand it now because you're so established and you really dominate RIT, but back then, man, we looked like idiots. And I don't mean that we were idiots, but we looked like idiots to other people, because there were so many fraternities, that were trying to start up and things like that and weren't successful. And here we are trying to do a constitution, and Jim Harmon has to go to these meetings and, trying to get us, established with the RIT administration, and just so many things are going on at that point. I guess I just sort of forgot about it all, until my son started going to college, and here I am and remembering it all. So I say that only because I think it's important for you guys to understand where we came from. And it was so hard, and it affected me a lot more than I ever expected, because it was such a time where we had to put so much work into it, and so many things weren't established, and you guys get the benefit and continue on that you dominate RIT, but at the time it was just such a different story, and I wish we could roll back the clock and you could sort of see, but I just wanted you to know that, and you know how important it is. So League of Nights in terms of, and Phi Kappa Psi was very important to me. My badge number is 55, and my badge number should be number 1 as far as I'm concerned, but I had already graduated, and we were a colony. I had already graduated when we actually became Phi Kappa Psi, so I had to come back and do all the initiation myself. So there was a pledge class, or 3 or 4, I don't remember how many that got in ahead of me, but so technically my badge is 55, but I will tell you it's not in my heart. So that's it about, as far as that goes. I just thought it was important to sort of set a foundation. As far as the career and the other things I'm going to talk to you about now, it's really going to be as if I was talking to my son. And having a son your guys' age, I think it's important that the same things I say to them, I love them more than anything, so I think it's important you guys understand the same things that I say to them day in and day out, and I think that's the best advice I can give to you guys. If I could say it to my sons, I want to say it to you guys and give you the same type of advice. So I did my co-ops at RIT with a company called Pyramid Companies in Syracuse, New York, and I actually worked in Boston for both my co-ops. And they had mall development in there. So I graduated, and I fully expected to take a job with Pyramid. I did take a job with Pyramid. In between when my job started, which was 2 months after I graduated in the fall of 1991, I came out and visited Ken Way, who was on a co-op for Motorola out in Phoenix. And I happened to get a couple of job offers while I was out there. The market was totally different out in Phoenix, and the world was totally different than it is today. But the semiconductor industry was crazy out in Phoenix at the time. Mostly manufacturing, the engineers who are there are mostly gone. There's a little bit less here in Phoenix. But at the time, Motorola was huge here. Ton of different suppliers and people who supplied materials and different things to the semiconductor industry here. So they ended up giving me a couple jobs, and one of them was a sales engineer in the semiconductor industry. So I ended up taking that, not taking the job with Pyramid, and moving out to Phoenix. And Kenny at the time was co-oping back and forth, so we lived together, and we met a whole bunch of different people out here that we started developing relationships with and stuff. And so everything worked pretty good. It was really nice, and I actually started my family at the same time that I started working at Jack Products, and it was a family-owned business. And one of the things I was working with the owner directly with, this is my first really experience as far as being an entrepreneur. He was a 75-year-old man. He wanted to retire, so part of the stuff I was working with the transition to me by the company. I had a really traumatic experience happen to me. I heard a little bit of Ken talking about traveling, what he has to do now, and the same thing sort of happened to me. My oldest son, Chad, was born, and sort of the foundation here before I tell you this is I had already been working with the owner. I had pretty much the financing in place and everything to buy the company, and it's just a question of really setting the date on when he wanted to retire. And I worked both domestic sales and international sales. And at the time, we had what's called manufacturing sales reps. We didn't have a direct sales force in Asia, so we worked with different companies that sold our products. And I managed those also. So before my son, it really wasn't a big deal to travel, to be honest with you. But my son was born, and then it was, 3 weeks after my son was born, I had to spend 4 weeks in China, Taiwan, and Japan. And when I came back, my son, if you know babies, they change daily. And I just remember when I came back, my son was like a totally different guy. He's doing more things, and I missed that month. And I just said to myself, that's never going to happen again, and I'm not doing this anymore. So I made a decision at that point that I wasn't going to buy the company. And literally that week, I literally told the owner, hey, I'm not buying the company. But I worked with him and transitioned, for another owner and did it. But I just decided that I'm never, ever, ever going to miss another thing for either my son or whoever else I have after my son. I'm never going to miss it. There's no amount of money in the world that's going to make me miss something for them. And I will tell you that it has gone on for both of my boys. I've never missed a basketball game. I've never missed a practice. I've never missed a football game, anything. Both of them played, sports in high school. Both of them did a lot of different activities. I don't care if it was, something they were doing, presenting in school. I didn't miss anything. I was never going to take a job or have a job that prevented me from missing anything. And having children, everybody's a different parent. That was just one thing I was pretty passionate about. You only have one opportunity to see those things, and I wasn't going to miss it anymore. So both of them will tell you, if anything, I'm a stalking dad, meaning I go to all of them. I'm not one of those guys that yells and stands or anything like that. I just want to see my kid. That's all. So I made that decision at a very young age, and I told my wife, called up everything. She was a little shocked, to be honest with you, because we pretty much had a career plan there that I was going to, buy MGI, and I was going to, continue to expand in what we were doing already. So here I am. I just blew that up out of the water. What am I getting now? So I decided that one or two things. Am I going to go work for somebody, or am I going to do my own thing? That's when I decided that, I really want to do my own thing. And I started looking at franchises, lots of them, hundreds of franchises. And what was really my big thing is I wanted to bring friendlies. I think you guys know friendlies. I wanted to bring friendlies out to Arizona. They wouldn't come out here. They wouldn't go west of Mississippi. They were having some distribution problems, long story short. So I decided on Dairy Queen. A lot of people ask why Dairy Queen. I look at franchises all the time. It's one of the things I'm passionate about. I like franchises. There's a lot of reasons. We can have a separate conversation on that someday if you're ever interested in it or something you guys want to look into. I've got a good resource for that for you. But Dairy Queen out here was a big player in the ice cream market. Is really the only one, but they have multiple profit centers. And what do I mean by that? People are going to walk into Dairy Queen for other things other than ice cream. They're walking for burgers. They're walking for a lot of different things other than just ice cream. So having multiple profit centers means that you have multiple profit centers, which you're not relying on one product to make your sales each day. So that's what I decided on. One of the things I'm really proud of is throughout my whole entrepreneurial experience, I never borrowed one penny from a friend, a family, or anybody. I did it all on my own. I wrote the business plans my own. I got the financing myself. All that stuff I did myself. So in terms of a resource for you gentlemen, if there's anything like that you ever want to do, I'd be a very good resource for you. I'm very good at that. I'm very good at getting financing. I'm very good at understanding that thing. So, put that as a bookmark in your head. If you ever decide to do something like that, feel free to give me a call, email me, whatever you like to do. But so Dairy Queen's turned into Dunkin' Donuts. I ran the Dairy Queen's good. The guys that the district manager for Dairy Queen's knew the district manager for Dunkin' Donuts. Said, hey, I got a good operator. There's an opportunity for Dunkin' Donuts. Next thing you know, I'm owning Dunkin' Donuts. Same thing. Business plans, everything like that was my own. I got the financing myself. Didn't borrow money from any family. Most entrepreneurs, as you'll see when you hear their stories, that they have borrowed money from somebody. Somebody gave them that. I didn't do any of that. It was all myself. So I'm very proud of that. Dunkin' Donuts, same thing. One of my Dunkin' Donuts was inside of a Texaco, and it was a dual operation, and the owners of Texaco saw how we ran Dunkin' Donuts. They came to me and said, hey, would you like to be, franchisee for Texaco's? We have some available. Next thing you know, I'm in the Texaco's. So that's how I got there, really, trying to summarize it as much as possible, not more detail there. But did somebody have a question?
No, it was just the door
Or
open.
is that myself? Sorry. Okay. And from there, I want to diversify. I want to diversify my company and add other things besides quick service restaurants. For me, I had a friend that was in the insurance business, and it's a simple story, but I can just tell you that I told my wife one night, I go, if Rui can do this, I could do it 100 times better. And next thing you know, within 2 years, I had 3 full-service nationwide financial brokerage services and insurance added to my portfolio. So that was the whole entire company that I had. I fully intended to do that, for as long as I could possibly remember. That's what I planned on doing. And I had somebody come to me and make me an offer at the time for the whole entire business. And I just made a decision that at that point I could, secure everything for my family, and I would never have to worry about paying for college. I would never have to worry about house payments, things like that. And I could really take a year off, decide what I wanted to do, retirement, things like that. I would never have to worry about those things. So I just decided to do it, and sold the whole entire thing, and at that point, just planned on taking a year off with my wife and just sort of figuring out what we wanted to do. And long story short, the person that hired me that gave me the franchises at Nationwide, she was second in command at MetLife. She called me when I sold everything and offered me a job at MetLife, and I really didn't want to do it, but it was something I felt I shouldn't turn down. So I just told her I would take it and, commit a couple of years to that, and that's exactly what I did do. And realized real quick, a big company like MetLife is not something that's really something that I really enjoy. I find that, if you like that stuff, it's good. MetLife's a great company, but if you're not somebody that really enjoys a big company like that, probably not someplace you should spend a lot of time. So I put my 2 years in, and I do mean it like heck. I really didn't like it. And then I took some time off in between, really what I did. I took 6 months off that I was really planning on taking a year off in between, and just sort of try to figure out what I wanted to do. Then along comes Corvell, and I had a friend at Corvell, and they called me in the interview process, and then I had no idea what Corvell did in the back end of the insurance business like I know now. And from my perspective, I just figured it was something that I could learn, and I like new challenges like that, but I didn't know this industry at all. It was something that I knew very little about. But you can see from my experience as I've gone down progression in my life, the one thing I like is I like a challenge. I like it when somebody says, hey, you can't do this, or you don't have the experience in this. I'm a firm believer that you don't need to have experience in these things. What you need to have is the drive and the passion to want to know these things. I'm a smart guy. I can learn just about anything. So I'm testament to you don't need a ton of experience in different industries, whether it be owning your own business or whether it be working in semiconductor, insurance, whatever it might be. I didn't have any experience in this. I wasn't an engineer. When MGI Products hired me, what I did is I spent nights on their assembly line taking machines apart, putting them back together. That's how I learned it. I wasn't an engineer. I was a business management major. So I'm telling you, and this is part of what I'm going to get into in the last part, is passion and really wanting it more than the next guy is really what's important in life. The experience and the stuff that you put down on a resume is only going to tell the skill set that you walk in there with to get you in that door. So believe me, everyone's going to have that skill set to some degree. That's why you're there. What they're looking for is who wants this more, okay? So anyways, back to Corvell. Corvell is the exact opposite of everything I did in the insurance business. The insurance businesses, I did everything in the front end, whether it be underwriting, selling the insurance, whatever it might be, everything that you would see in the front end. This is the complete back end. This is handling claims, everything from claims management in different industries and different product lines, stuff like that. So it's a totally different challenge for me. So I've been in this industry now for the last 5 years. I love this part of it, and it's been really rounded out my knowledge in the insurance industry. Is why I've spent the time that I did it, so I took it. And a lot of people ask me, why didn't you go back into owning your own business? One of the things I didn't put on here is I've owned my own insurance agency, for the last 5 years. So ever since I left MetLife, I started one at that time. So it's something I just do. I don't want to say it's a side hobby, but it's just something I do. I very seldom do one thing at once. I need to do more than one to keep me busy. And so I have an insurance agency with 4 locations that I run also. And that's sort of my entrepreneurial side that I still get to tap into. And I have people who run it for me. I work with them, I mentor them, I coach them, and they run it on a daily basis. I'm not involved in the daily aspect of it. A couple things, too, people always ask me in the insurance business. I've never written an insurance policy in my life. So people say, if you're going to own an insurance business, you got to write insurance business. No, you don't. And I'm testament to it. So that's another thing. If you see something out there that you want to do differently, if you see something you really want to do and you're passionate about it, you can do it as long as you put your heart and soul into it. So I know I've never met another guy that owns an insurance agency, never wrote an insurance policy. But if you hire the right people and you do the right things and you have the right strategy and you execute properly, you're going to be fine with it. I'm testament to it. I've never written an insurance policy in my life. I never made a blizzard in my life other than for myself or one of my kids. But I never sat on that line. I never did any of that stuff. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the CEO and hire people to do that for me. So everybody runs their businesses differently, but I had a vision of what I wanted and how I wanted to do it. And I wasn't going to be, nothing's going to deviate from that. So you make alterations as you go, but if you're passionate about it, you have a good plan, and you follow your plan, there's going to be days that you sit there and look in the mirror and go, oh my God, I'm so nervous, and what am I doing? And you got to stick to what you planned. You got to stick to it. You got to be passionate about it. So as long as you do that, you're going to be successful. The people who don't do it and quit at that point, they're not successful. So a little bit more about what I want to talk to you about, life lessons. So, and this is, I'll wrap this up here. This is the last part I want to talk to you about. This is exactly what I say to my sons, and I've said to them since they could start hearing me. And this is one thing that you do, and I see people that don't do it every day. I'm in Las Vegas for a convention. I'm about to shake hands with 100 people today. And I will tell you that at least 60 of them didn't do this. At least 60 of them didn't do this. Very successful people, but they didn't do this. And as far as I'm concerned, I just can't believe it sometimes. It's not my socks. Very simple. So the networking and everything that Ken talked about, and probably a lot of the other brothers are going to talk about, that's very important, and I'm not minimizing it. That is extremely important. But I'm saying if you don't do these things, I'm telling you right beforehand, before that, you're never going to get to the networking part. You need to execute on the fundamentals every single day. And what do I mean by that? When you walk up to somebody and shake somebody's hand, look him in the eye. Look him in the eye. Shake his hand. Don't give me a wet noodle. Shake his hand. Things like that. Be on time for appointment. No, and being on time means you're there 10 minutes early. Simple things like that. You need to execute on the fundamentals before you get to the networking things. The networking and those type of things are all important, but I promise you, 75% of your success is going to be executing on the fundamentals. No doubt about it. When somebody comes in to interview, when I interview somebody, I know that they all have the experience. I know they have that. What I'm looking for is, do the small things matter to them? If they don't, then I can guarantee you I'm not going to hire. And I will guarantee you that almost 90% of the hiring managers feel the same way. So that's something that throughout my life I've executed. I'm never late for a meeting. I'm never not going to shake somebody's hand and look in the eye when I'm talking to them. They have my full attention. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not worried about what else is around me. They got my full attention. They got my respect at that minute. And the other thing I will tell you, I hear a lot of people this now, people don't respect me, people don't respect me. Just remember this. Respect is earned. It's not given. You need to earn respect in everything you do. So a lot of times I hear this all the time from people, I don't get respect, I don't get respect. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, you don't, because you earn it. You don't automatically get it. If you just execute on the fundamentals, I promise you, when you get to the networking piece and there's stuff, you'll be successful. Okay? That's just some things that I'm very, as far as I'm concerned, the last thing too, that'll be the last thing I'll tell you. I live by the golden rule, and it's been very successful for me. I treat people the way I want to be treated or better. And it's been very successful. I see continually, time and time again, where people expect people to do one thing, but they would not do it. Anybody that knows me, and if I ask them to do anything, they know that I would do that too. I would never ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do. So those have been extremely successful things that I always do in my life. I mean, that's like foundation number 1, 2, and 3 for me. That's all the time in my life. And I try to instill that on my kids. I will tell you that, for the most part, I think that they understand that. They're probably sick of hearing it. But those are just things that I think that if you do and you execute on those things, you're going to be successful.
Hi, Brian. This is Jordan Russ, badge 338, PC 55. I was just curious. You said that you delegate a lot of jobs. So how do you decide? What things do you look for in people to determine that they're qualified to do the things you ask them to do?
Yeah, I look for leaders. Everybody knows I'm not a micromanager, and anybody that, when they come to me, I tell them that right now, and I always say to them, I expect you to do your job, and if you need help or you need mentoring and coaching, I expect you to come to me, but I expect you're doing your job. And if I'm micromanaging you, you're in a lot of trouble. But what you need to understand is you need to look for people who want to be leaders, who want to take responsibility on themselves. And that's what I look for all the time. And, people who can do their own job without having a lot of oversight, to be honest with you.
So the question was from Robert Petty, badge 215. Okay. A couple history questions for you. The first one is, who came up with the name, and how was the name came up with the League of Knights as well as the Crest?
As well as, what was the second part?
The Crest.
You know what? I got to tell you, I can't remember how we came to the League of Knights. At the top of my head, I don't remember how we got there. It was something to do with, I don't remember. I can't remember. It's been so long, but either one of them has been a long time, and I can't remember either one.
So how about, brother asked, what floor did you all live on? What building?
Jesus, my God. Can't you give me something easy? I don't know. Rob, do you remember?
Was it Ellison Hall that you guys were in?
I don't remember in a hall. It was,
Well, I can tell the guys about the Crest. Dave Nadeau actually created that long after the fact.
That's right.
But I don't know where LOK came from.
There was something to do, and I apologize, I don't remember, but there was something about Knights, and we messed around with Knights in a couple different forms, and somehow we came back to that, but I can't remember. But I'm sure, I'm sure Harmon had a lot to do with it. I mean, Jim was influential. I got to tell you, without Jim and Jeff Taylor, those two and I'm Dee, I don't want to interrupt your question time, but, those two guys, well, you want to talk about, no thank job, because they were president when things weren't cool. We weren't cool. And those two really took a leadership role and took us to a new level. And you talk about leaders, those two guys are two leaders, especially Harmon. Jeff is too, don't get me wrong, but I mean, Jim just really, he was president when we just weren't cool. You want to know when we became cool? When we won the first football championship. That's when we became cool.
Questions? Jordan.
What made them good leaders?
What about those two, Jim Harmon, Jeff Taylor, made them good leaders?
Well, it starts, they're good guys. I mean, that starts right there. They're good guys, they're good caring guys. They're passionate about what we stood for. And, both of them, they're organized. There's just a lot of characteristics you look for in a leader. They didn't care. I will tell you that this particular instance, they're good leaders for a lot of different reasons, but I will tell you this, they didn't care that we didn't look cool. They were more passionate about, this is a good example, this is a prime example what I talked about earlier. They were more passionate about the cause than they were about looking cool. The passion was the League of Knights and getting us to Phi Kappa Psi, finding a fraternity, doing that, and all the things we stood for at that time. And that made them good leaders, And like I said earlier, guys, there's a ton of entrepreneurs out there. There's a ton of people you're going to see, and you wonder how did they get to that level? They're not that smart. They're not that good. They want it more than you. They want it more than the guy next to them. Now, there's a lot of guys, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of guys out there who are a lot smarter than me, who are a lot less successful than me. It's not because they're smarter than me any day of the week, but they don't want it as bad as I do. And that's what you got to remember. Same thing with those two. We weren't cool, but they didn't care. And they were going to take us, and they believed in the cause, and they were passionate about it, and that's why they're good leaders.
Nick.
This is Nick DeVersa. My badge is 373 in pledge class 61. So as an entrepreneur, I imagine you've had to take many risky decisions. What would you say was the riskiest decision that you had to make?
Well, I'll give you I'm going to give you a quick story here. And this is about, this also talks a little bit about my mentors. One of my mentors on my thing is my father. He's by far my biggest mentor. He's been there with me for every step I've ever had. And but to answer your question, probably the biggest risk I had is when I first bought my first Dairy Queen. And I also, one of the things about my company is also asset based. What do I mean by that is I always felt like no matter what I bought, I want the property along with it too. There's a lot of companies that aren't asset based, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but I felt I wanted the property too. So when I bought everything of mine, I bought the property and the franchise. So it was quite a big purchase. My first one was well over $1 million that I purchased. So you have to put some money down in order to get some money, okay? So I had to put everything I owned down, and I can just remember the first night that the first day I bought Dairy Queen, and my first one, and everything was going smooth. But I have a young family. Everything I owned is in Dairy Queen. If this thing goes belly up, not only am I going to lose everything I own, I'm probably I had to personally sign for a lot of stuff. So I took a huge risk. So I can just remember that was, to answer your question, that was probably the biggest risk and the most scary thing. The other ones were okay because I already know the process, I already know what I was doing. But I also wanted to stress how important a mentor is at that point. I can remember making a phone call to my dad that night, and I'm like, holy crap, what did I do? I go, Dad, it blows up in my face. I'm screwed, and I was probably off the charts a lot more than I could explain to you guys, but my dad had a very calming sense. He's a lawyer. He brought me back down to reality and said, hey, you put a great business plan together. You did this, you're in fine shape. Everyone's nervous. Calmed me down totally. Made me refocus. So the point I'm trying to make is that was the riskiest, but a mentor is so important during that process. When you have somebody that you can trust and really is really there for your best interest, is so important. So I just want to make that point. I'll go off topic from what you said, but I know I didn't really talk about the mentor. So my dad is a huge mentor for me, by far the biggest one, and that's important that all you guys find one.
Any last questions? Chance?
What's your biggest failure?
What has been your biggest failure in your journey?
My biggest failure from a couple different things. I'm very Okay, so when I got to the point where, after I sold my businesses, I've been looking at other businesses, and I would say that throughout the last probably 10 years, I'm very ultra-conservative now. It's funny because before I would roll the dice and have no problem with it. I'm at a point in my life now where I'm very conservative in what I'll do and how I do it. So I missed the boat, and many franchises that I've done a lot of things for. Fire Guys, good example. I had the franchise race to Fire Guys in Arizona, but they didn't have a drive-through, so I said, I don't think that's a good idea. That was a dumb idea not to take that. So I could go through about 10 other ones where I made bad decisions and I didn't pull the trigger. So, but I'm at a different stage in my life now, and if I'm not fully committed to it, and I don't feel, fully involved in it, I'm not going to do it. But, so I made some bad decisions with that. But other than that, I can't really point to one where I made a bad decision and it cost me money, because I'm pretty conservative.
All right, thanks, Brian. I'm sure that if any guys have any more questions, they will contact you or some way through LinkedIn.